The arena is always the ultimate challenge at the end of a Kirby game, so I thought it would be a good idea to try to make guides on how to beat them. The first game's arena I've recorded is the original Kirby Superstar. This arena is unique for a lot of reasons, just like Kirby Superstar is as a game, and also, this is the first time we've seen what the arena would become in modern Kirby games. Well, the last two games had an all bosses mode where you only had 6 hit points and can only get copy abilities from the bosses. This game gives you access to every ability at the start, 2 random abilities after each round, and with 5 maximum tomatoes you could eat during this break. Along with Kirby having more health in general, this allows a lot more mistakes than before, and choice in how you tackle the arena. However, this is balanced out by there being 19 boss fights you have to endure. The second thing notable about this game's arena is that the boss fights are extremely unique from each other, meaning that you can pick one ability that's useful for a handful of boss fights, but really bad for a different handful. Personally, the 2 abilities I kept bouncing between were Sword and Hammer. The raw damage output of Hammer Flip and the invincibility frames of Hammer Swing make it extremely viable for the mini-bosses, Fatty Whale, Computer Virus, and others. While the sword has superior range with the sword beam and the multi-sword attack, as well as the fact that sword is far better in the air with the air chop that bounces you back a little bit, which is incredibly useful with Kracko, Camelio Arm, and especially Dynablade, as well as Combo Cannon. These 2 bosses being the main hurdle of utilizing Hammer in this game. Other abilities worth consideration are Beam, Mirror, and Yo-Yo, but I never found them as good as Sword and Hammer personally. I have beaten the arena with Sword before, but today it's a Hammer-only run, so without any further ado, let's begin. Keep in mind, I'll talk about the bosses in the order I fought them, since the order is randomized in this game, except for marks at the end. Fatty Whale. Use your Hammer Swing to go through the whale while doing damage. Make sure he is fully on-screen before doing so. The only attack to keep in mind is when he creates a giant splash of water, rocks will fall down in random locations. You can Hammer Swing them to avoid them, but it's a bit risky, so I'd recommend guarding during this attack. King Dedede. Again, you can just Hammer Swing through him, although I made a hard-to-understand blunder. It seems that I did the Hammer Swing a millisecond too early because Dedede's hammer covered him, making it take longer to go through him. And that's the main trick with Hammer Swing, making sure you're right next to your target so you don't lose invincibility frames while inside of it. In this example, I got really unlucky. Wham, bam, rock. This is a good example of what I was talking about. Make sure you time your hammer swings to the exact moment he slams his fist down onto the ground. He has the same rock attack that Fatty Whale has, and my advice is the same. You can hammer swing through them, but it doesn't always work out for me, so it's best to guard for this attack. Lo and La. Almost the easiest boss in the game for Hammer. You know the deal, just Hammer Swing through them. You also can do a Giant Swing, which is the air spinning attack, when you're underneath them as well. Heart of Nova. In this fight, you use the Starship, which you spam the attack button to shoot out stars, with it having more spread up close. You shoot these cores that power the Heart of Nova, which you can either go all the way to the left so you have the most time to shoot it, which you should do if the auto-scrolling speeds up, or you can get close to the core to destroy it faster. The fight isn't any problem except for the last core you have to get. Eventually, the cores start going backwards, so you have to dodge them, and the last one, there's barely any room to evade it. In my experience, it feels like a 50-50 coin flip on whether I dodge it or not. But my best attempt at advice is to wait for it to start going down, then immediately try to go over it. What I can help you with for sure is make sure you're firing when dodging it, because the core can go off screen very quickly, so you don't want to miss a shot. Also in the background, you can see if there's a core you already destroyed or not coming your way, which is a great detail. It really makes the environment feel more immersive. The Halberd's Reactor. Along with the previous boss, this is the only one where it doesn't really matter what ability you have. You need to get the blaster that appears to shoot the reactor 3 times. To do so, just carefully hover in front of the core and stay in one area so the blaster fires. Then, go to the top or bottom of the screen to dodge the laser. It didn't happen in this playthrough, but typically the blaster will be right in front of you and you need to make it fire diagonally so it bounces into the reactor. Also, keep an eye on the ground so you can evade the flamethrowers that slide underneath the floor and shoot upwards. Waddle Dee. Heavy Lobster. Hammer swing through the metallic beast and do a hammer flip behind it to do incredible damage. Be careful when you're in front of it, because the lobster has flamethrowers. It also can shoot a light lobster, which you can hit or swing through. Kracko. Now this is where it gets complicated for Hammer. As usual, when Kracko charges through the ground, do a hammer swing, which you can rely on if you're extremely patient. But if you want to end the fight quickly, you'll have to do giant attacks, but you have to be very careful because of his beam attack. Kracko will also spawn a Waddle Doo that you have to keep track of. Make sure you can do a safe hammer swing to get rid of him. It still sounds simple, but if you blunder, the attacks in the game can do a hefty amount of damage, so be cautious. Meta Knight. Meta Knight is incredibly dangerous and incredibly fast. The only way you can safely damage the Knight is by doing hammer swings, but Meta Knight is unique in that he is always moving, meaning that you can do a hammer swing, but then lose your invincibility frames inside of him and take a hit. So you have to be incredibly precise, even more than usual, to land your hammer swings. What I try to do is hit Meta Knight with the hammer swing, and then go backwards to avoid damage. Like Kirby's Adventure, his attacks can almost be impossible to dodge at certain points, like the Mock Tornado. Usually when he uses this attack, you can go all the way to the other end of the screen to dodge it, but if he does it too close to you, it can be impossible to avoid. And guarding doesn't prevent any damage either. So try to hammer swing through it, but if you don't have the hammer when this happens, you're just fucked. When Meta Knight jumps into the air, he's going to charge through the middle of the screen, so go to the bottom or top of it. He also has a shockwave attack, which you should try to swing through. To be honest, I would say that Meta Knight is probably the hardest fight in the game generally, but I actually beat him very quickly in this run, so it's kind of awkward. Speaking of awkward, the fact that you have to wait for Meta Knight to accept that you aren't picking up the sword is funny. Wispy Woods. Hammer flip. Camelio Arm. This is one of the bosses that are bad for Hammer. You can't hammer swing to avoid his tongue attack, he'll grab you regardless, so you need to go through him beforehand. Then he'll be up on the wall and it's difficult and risky to hit him with giant swings because his claws can hit you. He'll also camouflage to seemingly be invisible, but you can still see him barely. The strange thing is how unbelievably lucky my run was here. I blundered and hammer swung into him too early, but that resulted in him going to the left, which let me get behind him and defeat him immediately. So that's cool. Computer virus. Hammer is the only ability that allows you to beat this boss somewhat quickly. Without it, this fight feels like an actual RPG where you're under-leveled and the boss goes on a lot longer than it should. For your attack, just use Hammer Flip. Make sure you're positioned under the yellow lights to be safe. For your defense, I just guard every attack except off-brand Landia's attack where they have 3 cutter-looking blades that you can destroy. The reason I guard is that the attacks come too quickly to really be dodgeable in my experience. Combo Cannon. The worst boss in the game, if not in all video games. You have to hit the big cannon, but it's out of range, especially out of Hammer's range. At least with Sword, you can do air chops and be fine if you're careful. First, you have to take out the small laser cannon to have any chance of this with Hammer, but this requires a lot of caution. You have to position yourself very precisely because when the cannon fires, it extends, so you have to make sure you're out of its extended range even when it's concealed. Keep an eye on the ground because one panel will pop up to put you into the laser's range, so you have to have quick enough reflexes to be prepared for that, but that's not all. A hand will appear from above and either drop bombs on you, which you can swing through, or try to grab you from a variety of directions. You just have to be very careful. You can do a hammer swing to destroy the hand, but that's not always the key. Also, the hand is never permanently destroyed, so that's great. When you destroy the laser cannon, now you can attack the combo cannon with giant swings, which you should do when it reloads by pulling the cannon off screen, as well as dodging the hand. Mini-bosses. Hammer Flip. Except for Bugsy, who can dodge it, so just use hammer swings. Mini bosses 2, Electric Boogaloo, Hammer Flip. And hammer swings. Twin Woods. Hammer Flip, then use giant swings to destroy the apples so you can erase the other Wispy. Dynablade. Alright. Along with Combo Cannon, this is the main threat for your run. Dynablade's hitboxes are head, meaning you have to jump to hit her. You can't hammer flip, and you can't hammer swing, so you do giant swings, but you have to be cautious, because she can move her neck like a slinky toy and bite you, or spit out puffs of air. When she flies through the air with her talons out, fly up to dodge it. You don't want to be grabbed by her. When she lands, the stars that come out can hurt you as well, so keep that in mind. Just be careful, and be precise with your giant swings. Marks. Spoiler alert. Just like Dynablade, you can really only attack the father of communism with giant swings. When he's going to spit out a bomb on the floor, you should stay on the floor and hammer swing through it. As you will see, when I tried to hover to avoid it, he activated the bomb on me. When he plants his seeds, try to go where they aren't, but if you're unsure if you're safe, guard. When his face tenses up for a second, he's about to fire his laser, so fly up to avoid it. With Marks, you really just need quick reflexes to be able to dodge each of his attacks, and you should be fine. You got this. Anyway, that's it. Hope this helped.